really believe, from your personal experiences, personal branding is something we should invest in, not just as women. Thanks everyone for being part of this panel discussion today. Although it's Women's Day tomorrow, and part of Women's Day a week, so many conversations. I'm sure many of you are involved in some form or fashion with something around Women's Day. And for us, we just wanted to you know get a very interesting conversation going today in our panel discussion. And we wanted to talk about women empowerment and the power of branding, right? So that's what we've gathered here today to discuss. How can personal branding be a transformative force, in empowering women, no matter what they do, whether it's in corporate or, at home. Homemakers are as busy as many of us in the corporate world, right? I mean, every job is a job. But, we do believe that a big part of empowering women is also giving them the confidence to do what they want to do and to say what they want to say wherever they are, right? And so in very interestingly, this year's Women's Day, what the UN, the International Women's Day team is calling for is actually investing in women, investing in women as problem solvers to help solve problems and face growing crises. It's a very, very interesting topic, a big departure from what the IWD has taken on over the last few years. And very interesting that they use the word investing, right? And what struck me is how can we make women create personal brands for themselves and just use that to create differentiation for themselves and to actually do what they want to do. Like I said, say what I want to say. So that's the context, and thank you so much. I just thought, I'll just set a quick context before we get going, and a quick round of introduction for panelists today. We have a very interesting mix in our panel. Let me start with Shruti. Shruti is a journalist. She's an award-winning documentary filmmaker. She's based out of Delhi. She runs a very interesting podcast called Billy Productions. Very interesting topics you tackle, Shruti. And very recently, I know we've had the opportunity to discuss your foray into wildlife and conservation. She's a mother of a very young activist. That's Shruti. Thanks for joining the panel, Shruti. Going to Srividya Parsarthi. Srividya, thanks for joining. I know you have a busy day. Srividya is Vice President Operations at RRD Go, which is a creative team handling presentations and creative content and communication for many Fortune 500 companies. She brings in over 2 decades of experience in corporate, but very interesting mix of industry exposure. She's worked across sales, customer service. She's a process excellence leader as well. And she spent many, many years in the shipping logistics industry as well. So thanks so much for joining, Srividya. I'm sure we're going to get some very interesting perspectives from you.
Happy to be here.
Moving on to our next panelist, Lakshmi Sridhar, a veteran in the executive search and leadership advisory industry. She's been, in corporate for more than 25 years. Very interesting industries she's worked with, multiple verticals that she's focused on. I understand automotive, EV, consumer technology services as well. And she's been part of European executive search firms. And very recently, she has moved to Mercury Urval, and she continues to, focus on executive search and leadership advisory as a role. And she is an alumni of XLRI Jamshedpur. So, Lakshmi, again, given your tenure in corporate India, I'm really excited to hear some of your thoughts today on the topic. Thanks for joining the panel today.
Thank you for having me, Priya.
Shreyasi has a fashion stylist by education. She's a fashion designer by education, and she's doing some very interesting stuff today in empowering women in the field of fashion and styling. She has, she's part of some very interesting grassroots transformation initiatives that are helping women in suburban areas to acquire skills in fashion and styling, and focus on that as a work option. And she is also interested in writing. Shreyasi, I know, has probably written some poetry as well. So again, a very interesting panelist we have here today. So Shreyasi, looking forward to hearing from you.
Thank you so much, Priya, for having me.
Thanks. And last, we have Avik bringing in his experience to us as, again, a fashion stylist. He's also an educator. He's actually now teaching fashion communication at IIAD in Delhi. He's based in Delhi. And he basically comes with a degree in fashion styling from Pearl Academy and Nottingham Trent University. And he's explored a bunch of areas in terms of, styling, in terms of various transformative projects. He's worked for some big labels, Lifestyle, Myntra. He's worked with digital houses. He's worked with publications, Men's XP, Pop Expo. Very interesting, again, in terms of his experience and exposure, and also has been involved in creative direction projects. So having a majority women panelists, I'm sure, Avik is going to bring a very, diverse perspective for us with regards to this conversation. So thank you once again to the panelists. Thanks, Avik, for
Thanks,
joining us.
Priya, for having me. And I think all of us, like after knowing the background, I am really looking forward to it.
So, we've talked about the importance of personal branding and, the impact it can have on women in basically meeting their aspirations, their goals, no matter what you're doing today. So I actually, wanted to start with, asking this question to the panel, or actually talking about, do you really believe, from your personal experiences, personal branding is something we should invest in, not just as women, but, personal branding and, its relevance today, and in trying to, being an important part of what we want to achieve. So, just want to start with Srividya. Srividya, you've been in corporate, and I know you worked with diverse cultural entities as well in India and abroad. And, from your experience, what do you think personal branding can do, for us as individuals? Just want to get your thoughts on that.
See, it's important whether it's in the working world or outside. The packaging matters. When we walk into a shop, we pick up the most attractive package. Now, at the workplace, personal brand starts with how we dress, how we carry ourselves, how we speak. So the confidence it builds in others' minds when they interact with us, right? So definitely a very, very important aspect of personal branding is the styling and the dressing.
Mm-hmm.
Now, we have to be comfortable. It's not about fitting in. It's about deliberately creating a brand image and being able to carry it off. So it has to be something one is very comfortable with.
Right.
So extremely important. People remember what they see.
Right.
The impression we create is what stays in their mind long after the discussions are over.
Right.
So important to make the right impression, and it's important even as we carry ourselves within the organization.
Right, right. So Lakshmi, I know you've been, on executive search firm side, and does that have a huge impact when you look at individuals coming to take on leadership roles in diverse industry segments? How do you view that, coming from the kind of role you play in the industry?
Oh, yes, it does play a very, very important role, in terms of how you progress and advance in your career, how you plan out your career, right? But we have stylists, we have people who can talk much more intelligently than me on styling. But what I would like to highlight is, everything comes from within. The self-belief and the confidence is the one which gives you that persona and the personality which kind of, carries yourself, right? So your styling, your branding, everything has to be a packaging of your self-belief, your confidence, and how you present yourself. It definitely plays a very important role. And, this could also be an extension beyond your own self, your presence on the social media, what you want to project, what you want to show to the outside world. What is the image that you want to really build about yourself to the external world?
Right.
I think, yes, it is important.
Right. And Shruti here is a lot of times she's in front of the camera or she is hosting events. So she comes from probably an environment where, her branding is very closely associated with how people visually perceive her. And Shruti, I mean, I often hear that, when part of personal branding is also to create this sense of trust and people are able to better relate to you or take you with the level of seriousness that we expect them to take us, right? Do you actually, you sometimes host very interesting conversations on your podcast, which could be sometimes even very, tough topics to discuss. And so do you think that makes a difference, your personal brand and how you present yourself to your audience? What are your views on that?
Yeah, totally. I think, like you said, when like Shrividya said, the moment you enter a mall or a showroom. Sorry, am I audible?
A little better if you can come closer.
You have to see me very closely to hear my voice. So, I mean, the way you dress, it's not just like how you are looking, but it also communicates your personality and your value system.
Right.
Right. And for me as a journalist, I think I don't want to be a story. I want people to focus on the stories that I'm talking about.
Interesting.
So for me to dress up in a way that it communicates my style, because I like to wear dresses, I like to wear stylish clothes, but at the same time, I don't want to be part of the story. I don't want to be the focus. So it's very important for me to decide my style. That first of all, I can't wear everything, but at the same time, I like to explore because I'm a journalist. I like to explore. I'm curious by nature, but I have to keep in mind that style doesn't mean that it is vulgar or it is not appropriate. It has to be stylish, and it has to be for the mass.
Right. And I think that's a very interesting, point to discuss is, I think people often interchangeably think about fashion and styling, right? We come across that and people believe that, fashion and styling are the same, but I know I have two experienced stylists here, and now I think they can probably give me a better sense or give us a better sense of what that difference is. And there is definitely a difference between fashion and style. So, Avi, what, in your view, is fashion and styling, and how are they different? And that, how can I then look at styling being, kind of that important tool I can use to achieve what I want, right? Or my personal branding, it becomes an important part of my personal branding.
The whole term, I mean, I think we all know that of course, the French revolutions, when it started. So, of course, the term has always been coined from there. So, all these terms, you think about trend, your fashion, and all of that, it all actually started from there. So, but now in our world, I mean, I don't want to go into that depth, but now in our world, when you talk about fashion, it's more for in a business perspective. Like when you talk about fashion, It's quintessentially business. It's clothes, it's art, it's your design and everything. But at the end of the day, you have to sell things, and that's when it becomes fashion. If I'm not showcasing it, then what is fashion? But yes, it's more commercialized and it's more for the display. But when you talk about style, style becomes the personalized version of it. So you take fashion and then you make it in your own. So that becomes style. But then again, at the same time, there are a lot of conversation about trend and style. So trend, of course, then again becomes trend is something, and it's not just like we use the term fashion mostly associated for clothes, but fashion is actually a term which can be used for anything. Like fashion can be like how you say the how the furniture has been fashioned in a certain way. So it's always something which has been displayed, which is going to put up on a display, and the society is trying to dictate that okay, this is how probably it should be. The moment you listen to that, because of course none of us can stay in isolation, right? Be it women, men, and especially women. I mean, whatever conditioning we have always had, all of us have had conditioning, but then women had more. So then, there are a lot of societal conditioning comes into while you're being dictated to do certain things in your way. But then the moment, of course, you have to listen to all of that because we want to be part of the society. We don't want to be isolated
Right.
from this whole system. So then when you listen to fashion and then you make it in your own, you make it your own, and then that becomes your style. And so basically, for me, fashion is like a broader term. Fashion is for mass, and fashion is the commercial term coined for it. But styling and style becomes personal, and
More
style will
personal. It
stay with
represents you. It represents
you.
what you want to
Yeah.
tell
And
the world outside.
of course, and fashion will not. I mean, because it's gonna change, right? Like today, you're gonna wear a pencil skirt, and then after 2 years, okay. I mean, I'm from this generation. I'll be probably telling you, no, it's not there anymore. So you have to change. But then if it's style, then I'm gonna tell you, okay, what is you're comfortable in? What does suit you the best? So like I've always been a vintage person. I really believe I should have born in 60s. I'm still wearing my dad's clothes. I would steal his clothes, his baggy clothes.
But that's
But
you
thank God.
because you believe that represents you, or that's what you want the world to perceive of you, right? That's a very
Exactly.
interesting point. Yeah,
Big style.
right. Very interesting. So, Shreyasi, again, coming from someone who's working, coming with a fashion education background, and now working with a lot of women, integrating those that are not educated in fashion into the business of
Yeah.
fashion and styling, right? So, what are your thoughts? I mean, um, how can we move away from the concept of fashion or trends, or is it, how can we adapt that? Very interesting point to, pick what we want out of what's happening in the industry in trends, but then be able to discern what represents me in terms of, and then create my personal style and contribute to my personal brand. So, what are your thoughts on that?
I think that obviously comes from what you find what works for you. It doesn't always have to be fashion or trend or style. I think first and foremost, you have to be comfortable with what you want. You have to create that persona for yourself first, that, okay,
Right.
this is something that represents me. Like if I am, I think. If you're aware, there are a lot of summer dresses, and there are dressy girls who call it cottage core after COVID. I think it ended, and I think first you have to understand whether that works for you or whether you like it or not. I think it comes from within, whether you like it or not. For me, I'm a little mix of modern and 90s supermodel kind of look, because that's something I think I look good in and I really find it comfortable for myself.
Right.
So I think, yes, fashion will always come and go. It will have trends, it will have ups and downs. But from there, you have to pick and choose which one works for you and you have to stick with it.
Thanks, Shreyasi, for those views. I think what I'm now trying to, kind of get, talking about is, we talk about women empowerment, we're talking about equality, we're talking about creating a voice. I think we're, in terms of, in the background of Women's Day, I think we are way beyond all of that, right? I think many of us would agree that it's not about, the opportunities are there, it's equally available for everybody. And it's up to, either men or women to go make the best of those opportunities, right? But I think one thing that kind of perhaps stands out in my mind when I work with, diverse women in different parts of the, of the workforce, different experience levels and exposures. I think that one differentiator is, those that are able to very effectively chase their opportunities and get what they want are those that are very confident or know what they want, are able to very confidently articulate to the environment around them and move forward. And that's why this whole conversation about what is a personal brand, and of course a bulk of our personal brand represents who we are in terms of the skills we bring to the table. What can we do? What are the skills we bring to the table? But then to be able to even communicate that I can bring about certain change, I can contribute to certain activities or tasks, I think that and then building a continued trust for someone to continue to work with you, depend on you, right? And come to you when they need a problem solved and they believe you have that skill, right? I personally always believe that how you present yourself, not just in terms of style or the clothes you wear, in the overall presentation, how you put yourself together helps build that trust for people to work with you and come seek you, right? And then the opportunities just unfold. You don't need to look for them, right? Would you agree, Srividya, Lakshmi, coming from your perspectives?
Absolutely. I mean, do you want to go to a doctor who looks harassed and disorganized? Or do you want to go to a doctor, you're having a baby and you want the doctor to look like they're in control? It's a very simple analogy, and that's
Right,
about life,
right,
right? And how we dress. One of the things that inspired me was the doctor who delivered my baby. Her sari is so crisp. Always, it doesn't matter. She walked out of a C-section, emergency C-section. She's doing my normal delivery, but not a hair out of place. She carried herself with such calm and confidence. And when she can do that, she's literally, affecting lives.
right.
The workplace is not that different, right? And as you ascend the ladder, the proverbial ladder, the more calm and in control, our personal branding, our personal style has to reflect that, to inspire people to have the confidence to give us more.
Right.
Right. So that's, I think, an important part of personal branding. And that's why style is so important. Today, I learned there's a difference between style and fashion. So thank you for that.
Right.
But right, most of the times it is about getting up, getting the work done.
Right.
And the style, I think, evolves. Of course, thanks to Priya, I have become more conscious of my own personal style, and hopefully it works. But absolutely a very important part to inspire confidence.
Interesting. Lakshmi, on the same note, right? I work with image consultants. Sometimes I have this whole conversation, right? And one thing very interestingly comes out, right? When we talk about the question of what do you define as personal brand, and then they say, the impression that you create, are you creating a sense of consistency? Are you able to create a memorability about you? This is a very interesting word I've come across in a recent conversation. And that memorability is very closely linked to your personal brand, right? And people can recall that, even after a year that I hear this name, I have this visual image, and this is my personal example. I know even when I talk to my team, I bring that up. When I talk about somebody creating a very powerful personal brand, someone who really stands out for me is Usha Uttup, right? And I know I had this conversation with Avik also very recently, right? Such an amazing personality. You don't need to say anything. You just say Usha Uttup, and you're thinking about somebody in a sari, right? And then delivering these amazing, music anywhere in the world. So her personal brand, and she's a South Indian, and she's such an Indian at heart, and then so she doesn't care no matter what. She's singing jazz, she's singing in a sari, right? So Lakshmi, do you encounter these kind of impressionable, have you, or rather in so many years of meeting people, right, impressionable personal brands that have left a lasting impression or memory on you, and then you relate to them also, not in terms of what they bring to the table, but also their style that they bring?
Well, absolutely. I must say several leaders of stature, right? Who have their own style. I mean, like you said, a sari. You always see them in a sari at office, and the way you perceive women in a sari and all of that is, this creates so much of, uh, I must say, uh, you connect with them, really well, and then they give you the confidence that you are dependable and all of that, right? So, I mean, you have this concept of probably a Western is a formal, but it need not be, right? I mean, you create your own brand. You maybe, like Avik was saying, you pick up from all of the eras, and then you see what is comfortable for you, and that is your own personal style and brand that you create. Yes, there are several women, but definitely your own comfort, your confidence, that comfort gives you in the way you dress, the way you're looking and projecting yourself. The persona you're creating for yourself is definitely huge.
Yeah. Shruti, you're in a very interesting phase where you're actually behind, you're supporting your son, a very young activist, wildlife activist. It's a very, very interesting thing for a child to do at that age. I believe he's 11 years old, right?
13. Yeah,
13. And he's very passionate about what he's doing, and you're so supportive. But I think a lot of what you're sharing with him today, through the work you are doing, he's obviously looking at you. Um, do you consciously focus on teaching him how to build a personal brand? And are there some interesting experiences you've had with regards to how he wants to dress, or how he wants to build his personal brand, and then how that's contributing to the work he wants to do in wildlife
Yeah,
conservation?
yeah. One example I would like to give with Jay. Whenever he's like in cargos and he's, wearing a smart shirt, I mean, he's just 13, right? And he's wearing like good boots. And he's like, oh, I'm looking good. He says that. And I can see the confidence in him. Like if he's going to a birthday party and he's like nicely dressed. And like I said, it's amazing. Like we all know what we are comfortable in, but sometimes because of the influences, a lot of external factors, we don't want to follow that, you know. But I think once we wear something, we know we are looking good and we know that it's suiting our personality. It's kind of an extension of my personality.
Mm-hmm.
I am so surprised with Jay that even at this age, he knows that, collar t-shirts, they don't represent him.
That's interesting.
You know, so he's like round neck with a shirt on, open front open, because his personality is like that. He's very social and he's outgoing. So that kind of, and he knows that. And I think, when I was styling him and myself for the Botswana trip, and I would tell my friends that I have hired a stylist. And, my friends, they are like, they're doing very well, financially and all that. Everybody was surprised. Because I think people think that styling is something extra.
And you don't need to break the bank to look stylish, right?
You don't need to break the bank, and it's also like, it's not for us. It's for somebody out there.
Right. Yeah, I just want to add, we actually had a very interesting conversation with Shruti about how her son wants to, as part of his building his personal brand, wants to look at conscious clothing. Even Shruti is, can I buy more clean products? Can I focus on upcycling? I don't want to just add clothes. I think these are becoming very powerful statements that many of us are, kind of leaning towards, to also represent what we think, right? I mean, we can buy what we want, but is that who we are? Do we want to contribute to the crisis that, our sartorial choices are adding to the world, already. And it's very interesting that I do come across a lot of young women, and I know Shreyasi is also, kind of involved in some of these areas of work as well, that there is more happening in, making style and fashion more conscious and questioning people about the resources that's going in. And so then that whole differentiation between fashion and style comes in, wouldn't you? That styling is, you have amazing wardrobe. You just have to learn how to make it represent yourself. But then the powerful impact it can have on branding is the statements you want to make. What kind of products am I buying? Their longevity, how much am I moving to the dump? Am I being conscious in the way I'm using them and disposing them? I think these are also statements that, we need to probably think about, right? So,
You know,
go ahead,
sorry.
David. No, go ahead.
I feel in these cases, I mean, of course, whatever points you said, this is like the need of the hours. But I might just speak in a not so leaning towards the comment way. But hear me out. Of course, we can agree to disagree. Sustainability, ethicality, of course, it has to be there. But sometimes there are a lot of greenwashing, because being in the industry, I get to see so much of, like, you just put like sustainable clothes and then you charge like a higher price, and also I think what I feel like we as a consumer, and I being the part of the industry which is like highly capitalized, and you all are consumers. I'm also a consumer. Like, I'm buying Zara knowing that where it's coming from. But then, you know what, I feel being ethical, being sustainable, I think it starts from first it should start from acceptance. Two, it should start from awareness. Like, whenever we are investing into something, we need to know where the source is, where it's coming from. Like, it's very easy to say that, oh, we are all wearing cotton, but we don't know in production of cotton how much water actually goes into. So is it actually sustainable? And it's actually not. So I think these conversation needs to happen, because now all of us, we have this blockage that, oh, we only want to wear cotton, we only want to wear khadi. For me, I mean, you buy one poly material, and then if you can, there's a whole conversation now that you extend the longevity, extend the lifespan of it. That's why the recycle comes into the place. And I think, thankfully, I mean, we always make fun of our mothers that, how our t-shirt goes into being a pocha to like the duster and everything. I mean, I feel that's how you're at least you're like increasing the lifespan of that garment, be it
Giving
whatever,
it a
be it
new
a
value.
plastic or
Yeah,
whatever.
giving it a new
The whole
value.
idea is you're not adding into the landfill,
True.
because if you don't know the sources. So I think awareness and acceptance is the first thing, because I
True.
do realize that we cannot buy those expensive Rajesh Pratap Singh shirts, but then we can buy one shirt eliminating all the five jeans or all the five shirts we plan to buy from H&M, right? So I think the acceptance, but yes, do you want to do that? But if you don't want to do that, at least buy two shirts from H&M and make sure you're utilizing in the right way. Do not go buy everything whenever you have an occasion. So that's the whole idea. I mean, we don't always. So I think we have to be very, very conscious about the sources, where it's coming from. If the
Right.
laborers are actually paid in the right way, all of
Very,
that.
very
It's
interesting.
actually, yeah. So it's a multifaceted problem. I don't think so. We can, this 10 minutes discussion can't solve anything. But I think
True.
this conversation needs to happen.
Right. Very
So,
interesting viewpoint, because I do know that one of a world famous designer made this statement: fashion you can buy, but style you possess.
Fine.
Right?
yeah,
The key to
absolutely.
styling
You
and
can't buy
style
that.
is learning who you are, and it doesn't happen overnight. It takes many years to learn who you are, and therefore and it's also something that constantly keeps changing, right? And there is no right or wrong, and there is no one single roadmap to styling. It's all about self-expression, and above all, the attitude you carry with your clothes on you. So very interesting perspective, right? So
Yeah,
very
what, yeah, I have a question. What do you have to say to people? Because I think sometimes we just assume things. We just think this is not for me or whatever. What do you have to say to people who think कि मेरा तो यही style है, like this is what I have been wearing for years, and this is what I'm going to wear for the rest of my life. Uh, do you think that they should, try to see what else they can explore, or should they try to Plus एक और भी होता है. So one thing is this, that मेरा तो यही style है, and I just feel that something else will look so good on this person, or this
Yeah,
person
we
might.
do. I mean, it's a very interesting question. I mean, if you are ready to change, then you're ready to take in, any kind of inputs that the universe is throwing at you, right? Not just in terms of style. So, if somebody is very confident about a particular style they've carried for years, and they're feeling confident that they can still bring the change and do what they want to do, so be it. I mean, they found their personal style and they're happy to stick to it. Maybe for many of us, they might not look at someone being adventurous and not keeping to trends, or but that is their personal style. That is their personal brand. I think it's also related to personality, Shruti. I think it's a very interesting point. Is
I
that
think
yeah? Go ahead.
Yeah, I think a part of personal branding is also that you have to be unfazed by what other people are telling you that you
True.
should be, right? That's also a way that you represent yourself. So if you have a style, whether it's trendy, whether it's not, I think you first have to be comfortable with that. And if you like it, you like it. I think you should not be phased by, whether I'm being perceived a certain way or not. I think a very good example could be late Iris Apfel, who just passed away. I think she had a tremendous maximalist style, and she was often like mocked by others. Some were actually praising her, but I think she was not really bothered by what anyone is saying. That was her personal brand and she stuck to it.
That's
No,
very
I want to
important.
add on to that one more if I can very quickly. I think what Shreyas is saying is it's about conviction.
Yeah,
And we do realize it takes time to build conviction. I mean, it doesn't
absolutely.
come in one day. I can't just wake up in the morning and like, oh, I want to be like this. So,
Right.
to answer your question, I think Shruti, I think of course it'll take time, and also we all need to understand. I always talk about acceptance. You will, how as a human being we evolve. Like you are not the same person when you are in your 20s. You're not the same person when you are in your 30s. So, as human being, if you can evolve, your style will also evolve. But that doesn't mean you have to change at every phase. As long as you have the conviction in you and you can wear a shocking pink color shirt, because if you're not convinced, it will show in the world, like it will show in your face.
Absolutely.
So I think like the whole idea about too hard to try, like there are certain things, but I think it's okay if you want to try, and if you fail, it's absolutely okay. And I think especially for women, I want to say this, I think you guys would probably agree, because I have seen in my houses women were always taught to not to make mistake. Like I've seen my mother's, she would always take decisions and she would be afraid. No, no, no. What if I make a mistake? Nay, nay, nay. Any normal small decision in my family, she would not take that because she's afraid that, oh. So I think for that, women also, because in this conversation, it's very relevant that you try things and that's when you get to know it's okay. Once you try, you will look ugly. That's absolutely okay. You will have to try, others, how will you understand? It's okay to make mistakes. And for men also, men are also, especially for clothes, men are also very, very afraid. Trust me. So it's
Absolutely.
very important to try. It's
Yeah,
okay.
men's
Make
personal brand
mistakes.
and styling is all about grays, blues, whites, right? And blacks.
Yeah,
Yes,
they're
of
being
course.
made to
That's
wear a
so
pink
afraid.
shirt, most men.
Right, right. So, I mean, I'm just doing a quick time check here. We're probably over the time we planned, but as parting comments, I have a question for each of the panelists, right? If you today had to go out and meet women, a group of women, and had to share with them um, from today's conversation, our insights or the context of what we discussed today, in the how it is important for them to invest in a personal brand and what they need to do to build their personal brand, both skill and substance. What would those thoughts be? What would you share? So Shreyasi, you want to share your thoughts on what you would share to the audience, a group of women?
In terms of style, I would say stick to what you are comfortable with. I think comfortability comes first for me. Like I would not be wearing something that I'm not comfortable because again, it will show on my face. I will not be that confident in front of a crowd. So I would say that, and of course, experiment. Like if you feel like something might work for you, you should absolutely do that. And personal branding, of course, what else is personal branding? Your whole persona. It's not just what you wear. It's also uh, your inner self, right? Like, are you confident? Do you stand for something? Like, do you stand for a cause? Do you believe in something? So I think you should stand by it no matter what, and work with that.
And let your clothes speak that view of
Absolutely,
yours.
yeah.
Yeah. Great, thank you. Lakshmi, your view to aspiring leaders, women or otherwise, what would your thoughts be?
Yes, I think I would echo Shreyasi's thoughts. Firstly, be very, very comfortable, build your own style, uh, have the confidence and the belief that, whatever you're presenting yourself as is what you are actually, inside. And that's your persona, and just go with it.
Great, thank you. Srividya, large teams, lot of women I know you work with. What are your
Um,
thoughts? Yeah.
I think I echo what Lakshmi and Shreyasi have said. It's also really important to be very deliberate about this.
Mm.
Nothing happens by accident.
Mm.
So our personal style, we need to be deliberate in the
Mm.
choice we make. Do not worry too much about being judged, because I think very often women judge themselves before giving the rest of the world a chance to judge us. So without worrying about that, just be comfortable and deliberate in style, in what we wear, in what we choose to say, in who we choose to say it to, in absolutely everything we do.
Very interesting. I mean, I think that's the word deliberate is such an important term here. Great takeaway for me from this call today, from the many other topics. I think all of us have touched upon being deliberate, making that choice to build your personal brand, but still differentiate, your own brand. I think, and unless you're conscious and you want to do it, it's not going to happen. So you have to choose to do it, right? Thank you so much for those thoughts. Shruti, your views on how women can go above and beyond their, what they're doing today and using their personal brand for that transformation.
I mean, I'm just going to add what Srividya, Lakshmi, they have said. I think it's important to not to judge yourself. And I think, working with, during this trip, I realized that it's fun.
It's fun.
It's just fun.
Yeah.
It's
So
so much
focusing
to
on this
explore.
aspect of your personal brand can add that fun to your daily life
There are
work.
things,
Interesting.
there are things, we just stop ourselves for no reason,
Mm-hmm.
you know. And there are so many styles, so many amazing styles which can be extension, to your personality, which are there in the market. Just exploring them with an open mind, it can just add so much of fun to your wardrobe also.
Interesting. Great.
It opens,
Thank you
I
so
think,
much.
opens up your mind.
Yeah, that's a very interesting view, considering how monotony eventually sets in so many things that we do, and we need that. How can we just bring in that change and differentiation and that one perk? I think then maybe your clothes can bring that fun factor to what you're doing, and and I think it's also a way of expressing your creativity in whatever you're doing, not just at the workplace, right? Your clothes also represent your creative persona, not for anyone to judge, like Srividya was saying. You use your clothes to express yourself creatively. Great, thanks. Nice inputs, Shruti. Avik, the only male panelist with us, and I know you've heard a bunch of things here. And I know you teach a lot of women in the course, and they're all talking about fashion and communication, and I'm sure styling and branding are certain aspects you discuss as well. So your thoughts, final insights?
Well, of course, whatever you guys said, all of them are true. But I think along with that, I just want to add on to it. And this is actually out of my experiences. I've seen my sisters, my cousins, that like what I just said, that they're always too afraid to like start something new. They're always too afraid to like do in for the sake of doing the right thing. They're just holding themselves back. So I always tell this to everyone, and especially women. I think you need to know what you don't like, and you have to stick to it. And then of course it's okay to make mistakes. I want them to make mistakes. That's what I tell my mother. Like, women leaders, I think they're way more aware. Like I tell this to my mother, it's okay to make mistakes. What will happen? People will come and tell you, okay, who's going to tell you that? You are wearing something, you are buying it on your own money. I mean, thank God now everybody is earning. So who's going to tell you that? I mean, you want to wear a tube top and you want to look shit, it's okay. You learned it, right? Without like doing it, how will you learn? So I really want them to just start doing mistakes.
And that's an
And one
important,
day it
yeah.
will happen, and then yeah, I mean, just do not afraid to make mistakes.
And that's
And
important
that's
aspect of empowerment, right, Avik, for women. That's
yes, it's like a
that's a step
liberty.
in empowering
Yeah,
yourself to speak your mind, to be who you are, right? And so then that
of
gives
course. Like we always talk about being independent, but being independent is not just earning money. I mean, it's just to speak your mind and to be able to do what you want to do. Be it a mistake, and otherwise, how will you learn? How will you grow? How will you evolve? You're in your cocoon. So I tell this to everyone. I tell this to everybody, even men also, but women I think needs it more because men have always been given slight liberty
Yeah.
since their birth. Yeah. So yeah, that's what I want to add.
Thank you so much for all your thoughts. Yeah, Shruti, you had something to add. Please go ahead.
Ideal man, I just love it. The way he's like women in
He's saying the
his
right
life.
things, so the way he's presenting
Yeah.
himself,
I'm
said
just
all the right words, right things. Anyways,
I
so thank.
I would like to add something.
Go ahead,
Just
Shreya.
because we were on the topic of personal branding, a professor of mine once told me something. He said, after 50 years, if you find a tin can in a rubble, which is red and white, you'll know what it is. You'll know that it was a Pepsi can once. Sorry, Coca-Cola, because Coca-Cola has a very distinct branding, right? So
Yeah.
I think personal branding is also about being memorable.
Interesting.
And how will you become that? If you are consistent with your views, your style, your action for a very
yeah.
long time, right? That's how you become memorable. And that's how you become a
Recall value.
Coca-Cola.
Yeah.
Yeah. Please go ahead.
All right.
No, I
Thanks so
just said
much.
it's a
Yeah.
recall value. That's it.
Yeah.
No, I
Well,
just
Ah,
I just
yeah,
want to add it to Shreyash's thing. It's a recall
yeah,
value.
yeah.
That's very creative.
Oh,
just
absolutely.
like any brand logo today, we have a recall. This becomes our
Yeah.
recall value. Yes, great
Exactly.
insights.
Yeah.
All right. Any other parting thoughts people would like to share? If not, we've had a lovely conversation. I know we went to a bunch of, aspects of this conversation, but I had some very, interesting thoughts come out listening to a lot of you here. And I know the whole concept of branding has always been associated to products or services and businesses. And we know in the last decade or so, personal branding has become very important, in personal development. I mean, we do hear and read about people investing in trying to understand or even being able to communicate. So personal branding itself is a fairly, I would say, recent aspect of our lives that we're not consciously trying to build. We need help, right? And we also have different views of what a personal brand means, and what is more important, what you bring to the table, how you present yourself, the different views. But we all know that it is equally important for each one of us to be able to not just bring important skills to the environment around us, but that we have the right attitude, the right demeanor, and the way we present ourselves, so people actually believe that we can do something, or they're willing to work with us. We are affable, we're easy to work with, and then being able to communicate and participate in so many activities around us. Styling becomes an important aspect of that personal branding, right? So um, with that kind of thoughts, I just would like to thank all of you for sharing your insights and time today. It was lovely speaking to all of you. Thank you so much for being part of this panel today.
Thank you so much,
Thank
Priya.
you for having